فقبض إليك باختياره وألزم أعدائك الحجة مع ما لك من الحجج البالغة على جميع خلقه. اللهم فاجعل نفسي مطمئنة بقدرك راضية بقضائك مولعة بذكرك ودعائك محبة لصفة أوليائك محبوبة في أرضك وسمائك صابرة على نزول بلائك شاكرة لفضائل نعمائك ذاكرة لسوابق آلائك مشتاقة إلى فرحة لقائك متزودة التقوى ليوم جزائك مستنة بسنن أوليائك مفارقة لأخلاق أعدائك مشغولة عن الدنيا بحمدك وثنائك. اللهم إن قلوب المخبتين إليك والها وسبل الراغبين إليك شارعة وأعلام القاصدين إليك واضحة وأفئدة العارفين منك فازعة وأصوات الداعين إليك صائدا وأبواب الإجابة لهم مفتحة ودعوة من ناجاك مستجابا وتوبة من أناب إليك مقبولا وأبرة من بكى من خوفك مرحوما والإغاثة لمن استغاث بك موجودا والإعانة لمن استعان بك مبذولا وإداتك لعبادك منجزا وزلل من استقالك مغالا وآمال العاملين لديك محفوظا وأرزاقك إلى الخلائق من لدنك نازلا وأوائد المزيد إليهم واصلا وذنوب المستغفرين مغفورا وهوائج خلقك عندك مقضيا وجوائز السائلين إنك موفرا وأوائد المزيد متواترا ومواعد المستدعمين معدا ومناهل الظماء مترأ. اللهم فاستجب دعائي واقبل ثنائي واجمع بيني وبين أوليائي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين إنك ولي نعمائي ومنتهى مناي وغاية رجائي في منقلبي ومثواي أنت إلهي وسيدي ومولاي اغفر لأوليائنا وكف عنا أعداءنا واشغلهم عن أذانا وأظهر كلمة الحق واجعلها العليا وأدز كلمة الباطل واجعلها السفلى إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلوات.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you very much, Brother Hassan Dusti. If we could please recite one loud salawat for his well-being. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters, and welcome all to the Imam Hussein Islamic Center. I congratulate all of you on three auspicious occasions. Our main event for tonight, the Eid Al-Ghadeer celebration, and we are also celebrating the birth of Imam Al-Jawad and Imam Al-Kadhem alayhum as-salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, we have a big program tonight. We just had the recitation of the Holy Quran and Ziyarah. We'll have the main lecture by Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi. We'll have some poetry, some kuhu and lucky door, and then some food and sweets outside, inshallah. And just a reminder during the program, so from now, for children aged 4 to 12, there are classes upstairs running. So for any children, please head up upstairs now and you can attend a very, very beneficial class, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Every day I remember and come across countless blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The blessing of being alive, the blessing of being healthy, the blessing of a loving family. But it is at this time every year I am reminded of a particular blessing that I have, and that is from the 8 billion people in this world, I am from amongst the lovers and the followers of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Many around the world say Imam Ali as just a mere companion, while others may have never heard of him. So all praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has guided me towards knowing and acknowledging the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to never remove this blessing from our lives, and I ask Him to keep us all upon the straight path, inshaAllah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our a'mal on this holy night, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen in this life and his intercession in the next, inshaAllah. And without further ado, I ask if we recite 3 loud salawat as we welcome Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi to begin tonight's lecture. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن ولا ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. When Nabi Isa alayhi salam was with his disciples, he said to the disciples, the people say that the foundation of a building is the first stone that you lay, the first thing that you lay. said, but I say other than that. And they say, what do you say? Ya Ruh Allah. What is it you say? He says, Aqulu haqq. With the most certainty he would say, Inna akhir, the last hajar, the last stone that is placed, he said, is the foundation stone. I'll give you an example. Okay? The goalkeeper passes the ball to the first defender. Not Harry Maguire, or else he'll come back into the goal. But he gives it to the first defender that he sees. They run the ball through the field magnificently. It's been passed through midfield, gets set up, lovely moment, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he misses the shot. Does it make the highlight reels again? Never. Just goes into the archives for those that like to watch his skills, but it's never ever played again because the goal wasn't scored. You're more likely to watch a penalty tap in than watch that goal again, or that missed goal. It has to be completed. With everything, it needs to be completed. Nothing is incomplete, except for some reason, Islam. For some reason, Islam, the goal was never scored. It was built up from the very beginning. God sent the first prophet, built it up, this religion, called to the way of God. Then the next prophet, and he put on, the next major prophet put on a great show. A flood, cleansed the world. Then the next major prophet lived, even though he was thrown in a fire. It was such a great blaze that you had to stand so far away that even the heat, the radiance, heat would not cook you. And then the next prophet split the sea. Major prophet we're talking about. And then the next major prophet brought the dead back to life. And the final prophet combined all these miracles and built up such a great case. A religion that would prevail over all religions, and just right at the end, he didn't take that final shot. This is what they want you to believe. That he didn't, he just left it. At the very end, he said, I'm out of here, and I've left you with nothing. This is what they have you believe. This same prophet that told us take things in full measure. Did you know when this prophet buried his son, Ibrahim? Did you know what he did? After he, I don't know if you ever watched the funeral today. If you go to Baqiyah, you get an example of what these people do when they bury. They just throw and walk away. When Rasulullah buried his son, he not only covered the grave, he even set the grave in a perfect manner and the corners and everything. And as he was finishing, someone came and said, Ya Rasulullah, you know, you're going the complete way, you're doing the whole thing, you haven't stopped. He said to them, may Allah have mercy on a person that does something and does it to its completion, does it properly. You know, for example, how many of you have asked your children to vacuum the house and then you have to vacuum after them? How many of you have asked your children to make their bed, then you have to make it up after them? How many of you have asked your kids to wash the dishes? How many times, you know, whenever you get kids to wash the dishes, how do you know? You open the drawer and you find a sticky fork or something. You know, someone's like, no, it hasn't even washed it, it's gone straight into the drawer. They haven't done it properly. You know, as we say in Lebanese, mithl al-lita. I'd rather that he didn't even do it, I'd do it myself. Something has to be done properly. It has to be done to completion. It's got to end. And this is the problem here. The problem that we have here is, except when it comes to religion, it wasn't finished. Rasulullah, for some reason, the one that fixed the grave of his son, they said he just left and did nothing. Even though Allah Azza wa Jal warned him. He said to him, Ya ayyuha Rasul, بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك. You are a messenger, our messenger. He said to him, announce what? Ma unzila, what has come down to you from your Lord. He says, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ. Now if someone comes and says, if you do not do this, the verse says, then you have not announced, you have not declared the message of God at all. If someone says, oh, this was at the beginning of the deliverance of Rasulullah, this is incorrect, because even if you go through unanimously between the Muslims, the first verses are contended with, the verses, first 5 verses of Iqra. There's the Mudathir, Afwan, Muzammil, Mudathir. They're the ones that contend for this, and some other verses, but never you ever hear this verse. And this verse is talking about something to complete the message, otherwise none of the message has been done. What is it that is the crux of the Risale? What is it that's the most important part? And he says, Wallahu ya'asimuka minan nas. Allah will protect you from the people. Inna Allah la yahdi al-qawm al-kafirin. What is it that Allah equates to disbelief if it's not accepted? It's not something small. How you might say, hold on, it's prayer. Someone doesn't pray, their disbelief. And we say, hold on, there's contention here between the fuqaha. Someone doesn't pray, there's a potential that they have to repeat their prayer. It's the naqid lis-salah. The one that doesn't believe salah is wajib is the one that's considered a disbeliever. The other one is in disbelief and will be punished, but he can cleanse himself after he repeats the prayer. What is it that makes Allah mention that Allah will not guide those that disbelieve? See, the message was never open-ended. And we know this because even the intervals weren't open-ended. The biggest problem was the issue of what? Khilafah. If you look at all the Muslims that debate with the Christians, what do they debate about? What's the main point? They debate about Khilafah. They told that, you have a look, one of the strongest debaters, you want to find him online? Christians versus Muslims. The strongest Muslim debater against the Christians. When I say the strongest, people for some reason listen to Zakir Naik. Zakir Naik just dribbles. So he does. He goes, you read this verse, says this, he dribbles. I'm talking about structured debate. Zakir Naik doesn't debate. He's got just one method where he just talks and he dribbles when he talks. The ones that actually talk. I know a lot of people like him and they get offended tough. The one that actually knows how to debate and is strong in debate is a man called Shabir Ali. Shabir Ali is actually educated in this. He has a degree in this. And Shabir Ali is not from our school of thought. It's from the other school of thought. I'm not saying, but I'm talking about with regard to rhetoric and with regard to, having the ability to refute and having the ability to debate. Have dialogue in religion. Against the Christians, he's the strongest. And his main point in debate is what? It's Khilafah. He says to the Christians, you followed St. Paul, and the one that was after Jesus was St. Peter or Simon. So I say, Shabir, you're onto something right now. This is the problem with everyone. After the Prophet, things went wrong. Think about it. Why did Cain kill Abel? Why did Qabil kill Habil? What was it over? Khilafah. It's all about Khilafah. Okay, we'll get to this. See, because blood has been spilt all the time over what? Over earth. Money. Successorship. I'm talking about land even. Imagine title, any kind of title people kill. Who studied any Shakespeare at school? The tragedy of Macbeth, what was that about? Was he going to inherit the earth? No. He was just going to get a title, and it was enough for him to kill. just to get this title, just to get this position, and it happens. Imagine if this is about the vicegerency of the heavens and the earth. Khalifa. When Allah Azza wa Jal said, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, I'm going to make a vicegerent on the earth. Someone that will represent me. Someone that has this absolute authority. Everyone will contest this and not accept this. But the question is, did the Prophet leave it open-ended? This is a question that we have. Did the Prophet say, all right, this is up for grabs, anyone can take it? We'll address the objections that exist. The first one is that some people will say the event of Ghadeer, the appointment of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the event of Ghadeer, was a Shia fabrication. And for me to even entertain this idea, I'm really wasting my time. Yani, it's like, for example, you denying that the sun exists. For me to deny the sun exists, this is how much you will find by all scholars of all sects that speak about this event. Yani, even to the point where I got 3 scholars I'm going to mention this just so we can pass. So I don't want to waste my time because in general Islamic history it exists. Okay, there's no doubt amongst the Muslims about this event. Number 1 is by a narrator, Ibn Uqda. Ibn Uqda al-Kufi was a famous narrator for Sunnah and Shia. He's a famous narrator and they both consider him authentic. Ibn Uqda was a Zaydi. A Zaydi believes in the Khilafat of the others. He actually believes in it and he likes Ahlul Bayt, so this is why Zaydi, but he drops off with Zayd ibn Ali. He doesn't get off at Redfern, he gets off probably at Ashfield or something. He doesn't go all the way at all. So this Ibn Uqda, he says in his book, in his Kitab al-Wilaya, he says the ones that narrate, the narrations he gets are from Abu Bakr and Umar ibn al-Khattab and Uthman and Talha and Zubair and Abdul Rahman ibn Auf and Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib and Sumrat ibn Jundub and Adi ibn Hatim al-Ta'i and Zayd ibn Thabit and Abu Hurairah. This guy has got the whole spectrum, and each one is a way that it's been narrated. It's not an. There's an, and this person, and then Rasulullah. So these are the connection to Rasulullah. Would you imagine how many of these ways that he's developed? This is for the males. For the females, he's even narrated that on Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam. He's even got the narration from her. And from Aisha. And then from Salama radiallahu anha. And Fatima bint Hamza radiallahu anha. Wa Asma bint Umays radiallahu anha. He got from these people, from the females. And he states in his books, he has got the narration of Ghadeer, not from one. I've mentioned all these numbers, count them, what, 12? We'd say 105 different ways he narrates the hadith of Ghadeer. This is from a Zaydi that believes in the Khilafah of Abu Bakr. And he believes Imam Ali is the 4th Khalif. Yet he narrates this from 105 different ways. The second person is a name that you all be familiar with. It's At-Tabari. At-Tabari, in his book, the chapter of Hadith al-Wilaya, he narrates it from 75 different ways, in a different chains of narration, when we say. So the first guy, 105 different chains of narration. This guy from 75. Yani this is not, when we say tawatur, when a hadith has many narrators or many chains, this is beyond tawatur. This is like, it's like, I want you to think of this right now. Could you imagine 105 people walk in right now, 105 different people, and tell you something? If they said right outside, Dulwich Hill Station's on fire, 105 people come, randoms, not people that are known, random people, would you believe it? 105, of course you're going to believe it. You've got to have rocks in your head if you don't believe it. If 105, man, if 2 people said it, you'd believe it. 3 people, like 2, you'd have dhan. 3, you'd have yaqeen. There's no way 3 randoms would just come out. Why would they come and say this for? 105. And even more, there's one more person. The next person is Ibn al-Maghazali. This person is a Shafi'i. Tabari, you know, is ASJW, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, ASWJ as they say. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah through and through. This next guy, Al-Maghazali, is a Shafi'i. So I've given you a Zaydi, a general Sunni, and a Shafi'i. Because with Tabari, I don't know whose alignment he was with, but all Sunnah find him authentic. He has 75 different ways or chains. The last one, Ibn al-Maghazali, he has over 100 narrators, and of them he has the 10. When I say the 10, not our 10, their 10. Al-Ashra al-Mubashiri bil-Janni. He narrates from all 10 of them, this hadith. Okay? And he says, Ibn al-Maghazali, this Shafi'i, he says that this hadith is so authentic, I found no flaws in it. So if I'm going to debate the argument where someone objects and says it's a Shia hadith, I'm wasting my time. And honestly, I've just given you the tip of the iceberg. And if you go, this is a bahath, Allah yarham al-Allam al-Amini, the author of Al-Ghadeer, this is all his work. We open his book and we just take the fruits of his labor, rahmatullah alayh. This alim, al-Jalil, this great scholar, and this is his fruits, and we just open the book and retrieve it. But if you go through the book, you'll be here all day. The second argument where they doubt is the ones that say, no, we believe it took place, but it's a love story. It's not a story of successorship. It's a story of the Prophet saying he loves Ali. Okay? It's like, imagine I said to you, you have walaya over your children, and that means that you love them. So your child says, listen, 5-year-old says, I'm going to watch an R-rated movie. And you'll say, son, I love you. He says, I love you too, Dad. Yeah, but I can't say anything to you because I have no walaya. Oh, walaya is love. That's all it is. We only love each other. We don't have any authority. Because this is what they want to tell you walaya means. It means love. Anytime you hear the walaya or the word of walaya, it always means authority. Why is it now a love story all of a sudden? Okay, let's see if we look at the hadith and it spells love to you. That the Prophet told everyone, Ali and I are good friends and I love him and whoever loves me loves him. If that's all the story's about, we'll look at the evidence. Firstly, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, just before the Hajjat al-Wada, he said to them, Hajjat al-Wada is when? In Dhul Hijjah. Dhul Hijjah is which month? We're in it now. This is 18th Dhul Hijjah, the night of the 18th. When does Rasulullah's martyrdom take place? On the end of Safar. So we're looking, the martyrdom of Rasulullah right now is 50 days away. Imagine this, you're living right now. In 50 days, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam will be martyred. Now, he tells the people, Inni rahilun ankum an qareeb. Rasulullah is not a munajim. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam does not speak from his own desire. In huwa illa wahyun yuha. Rasulullah is not a soothsayer. Rasulullah says what Allah lets him know. That I am leaving very soon. So when someone is leaving, what do? Normal, let's look at normal people. Someone is dying, what do? Some people have a bucket list. They want to, Rasulullah didn't have a bucket list. Like these people now think, because I'm going to become dirt and get eaten by worms soon, so let me go to Disneyland or something. Or you see the Muslims, when they're about to die, what do they start doing? They start to, all right, let's make up for what I've been doing wrong. Let's start giving to the poor or whatever. But sometimes you'll see, and this is a lot of the times, where people start arranging for what will happen after. For some reason, our Prophet, they claim, didn't do this. He just told everyone, I'm going to tell you who my friends are. That's it. But let's look at the hadith as it's narrated here from the 7th Imam. He says, Inna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi lamma awqafa Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib fi Yawm Al-Ghadeer mawqifahu al-mashhur al-ma'ruf. What's he talking about? He says, when Allah Azza wa Jal had Ali standing in this stance that is well known. Which stance are we talking about? The stance that's well known is pretty much, if you've seen the Jordan symbol, you know the Jordan symbol where he's doing that dunk from the free throw line, and it's known. The hands where Rasulullah is holding Amir al-Mu'mineen, it's a well-known symbol. If you see anyone hold one hand up, you know what we're talking about. The day of Ghadeer. It's famous. It's iconic. It's something that everyone knows. That's why the Imam, even then, it was an iconic stance. It's an iconic stance, that raising of the hand. Do you know why it was so big? Because Rasulullah, at the very moment he got to Ghadeer and got the people together and he built the pulpit and he stood. Did you know from the very beginning of the whole thing, when he raised his hand, he didn't stop. I'll explain as we move along. I want to get to this so you can understand. He says, this is the very beginning, he gets up. What does he do? It's unbelievable. If you look at this, it's to make it as clear as possible. Look what he says. He said, Ya ibadallah, ansibuni. You know what ansibuni is? You know when you come to give your name, you go to an Arab country, it says Ism al-Rabi'i or Ism al-Thalathi. You have to say, I'm so-and-so, son of so-and-so, son of so-and-so. You know? So they give you a name. You know, my poor son always cops this because I've called him Mohammed, the same as my son, my name, Mohammed, because I've named it after the Prophet. So they all call him Uhtred, son of Uhtred, for some reason. But his name is Muhammad, son of Muhammad. So when they have this name, and your name, son of this guy, son of that guy, that's how it's named. So Rasulullah said, Ansibuni. Who am I? What's my name? He's telling people, what's my name? Who am I? So they said, Anta Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa alihi. Ibn Abdullah, Ibn Abdul Muttalib, Ibn Hashim, Ibn Abd Manaf. Why is he doing this? So no one has a doubt who is speaking. So no one comes later and says, was it the Prophet? Do you think he looked like him? You know, like the hadith where the Prophet says that there will be 12 caliphs after me. It's a hadith in Bukhari. 12 caliphs after me. And then the Prophet says something, but I didn't understand. Have you heard that hadith? That the guy, for some reason, just, amnesia, there was a car driving past with a boombox. He just couldn't hear anymore. He waited, the bass was a bit loud, waited it for it to go, didn't hear the rest of it. Damn. You know what I mean? So there was no rewind back then. You couldn't rewind to hear. So the Prophet needed to make sure there's no one that's going to get up and say, hold on. He said, Ansibuni, who am I? They said who he was. Then he said, Ayyuhan nas, alastu awla bikum min anfusikum? Do I not have more authority over you than you have over yourself? Listen, the first thing, when we want to do anything, when we say manzarani, you hear the hadith, it says manzarani arifan bihaqi. You all read this hadith. Whoever visits me, any of the imams say, they say arifan bihaqi. You have to have my ma'rifah when you visit me. Why? Because what's the difference between you and the kafir? There's kuffar that come to, at the time of Rasulullah, after Rasulullah, mushrikeen used to go to the Kaaba. So everyone that goes to the Kaaba, you need to know what you're doing there. How many people go? Macron was in the shrine of Imam Al-Kadhem. Does he even know what he was doing there? Huh? Does he even know who he's visiting? What the purpose is there? عارفا بحقي. Who am I visiting? Even when I do dua, you know when you do dua, have you ever noticed, like dua qumel, how do you start off with? You start firstly acknowledging who Allah is. When you recently did dua Arafah, how beautiful is it? It says, for example, one of the ones I love is dua Arafah. There's one for Imam Hussein, there's one for Imam Zain al-Abidin. The one for Imam Zain al-Abidin, it starts to describe Anta Allah, la ilaha ghayru. This. And same with the dua Imam Hussein. Starts letting you know who's God. What is he like when you're reading dua al-iftitah? Who is he? What's his ability? Who am I talking to? The buck stops there. I know that. So when I'm talking to God, I don't need to go elsewhere. Everything is with Allah. Everything's in the hands of Allah. So firstly, who's talking here? It's Rasulullah, the connection to God. Do I have more authority over you, or do you have more authority over yourself? They said, Bala ya Rasulullah. You are the one with more authority over us. Then he says, Mawlakum awla bikum min anfusikum. They said, Bala ya Rasulullah. Again, first he said, do I not awla minkum min anfusikum? Do I not have more authority over you than yourselves? They said, yes. And then he said, your master with more authority over you? They said, yes. So he's making sure. And he mentions this again. So there's this emphasis and reiteration. So there's no semantics later, like they're doing now. So it's not like, this guy's my brother, my friend. I love him. We go a long way. We grew up together. No. You know what I'm here for. And they understood. Then he says, فَنَظَرَ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ. He looked towards the heavens. He said, وَقَالَ اللَّهُمَّ اشْهَدْ. Allahumma shahad. Oh Allah, bear witness. Testify what I have said. And testify how they responded. يَقُولُ هُوَ ذَلِكَ وَيَقُولُونَ ذَلِكَ. So do you know what he was saying? Allahumma shahad. And do you know what they were saying? Allahumma shahad. 3 times he said, oh Allah bear witness. They said, oh Allah bear witness. He said, oh Allah bear witness. 3 times. And they responded 3 times. Why? Why would he do this? Out of war. Yeah, now I don't need to tell you, it's out of war. The art of war, Sun Tzu says, if the commandments, generals' commandments are not clear and explicit, whose fault is it? The generals. But if the general's commandments are clear and explicit, whose fault is it? The soldier. Sometimes when you want your child to do something, you give him instructions. Do you know what I do? I tell my child, then I say, repeat what I just said and explain it to me. Do you know when you do this, they do it exactly to a T, because they know they are 1 inch from their life if they make a mistake. Because you have laid down the law, they know it's serious now. They need to do this properly, because it could be dangerous if they don't. And here the Prophet saying this is the greatest danger. So he's making sure it's explicit. ثم قال ألا من كنت مولاه وأولى به فهذا علي مولاه وأولى به. اللهم والي من والاه وعادي من عاداه وانصر من نصره واخذل من خذله. He said, whoever I am the master of and have more authority over him than himself, Ali is the master of, and he has more authority over them. And then he said, oh Allah, be the guardian of the one that accepts Ali is the guardian. In other words, Allah is not the guardian. He won't look after you, won't protect you. You haven't chosen Ali as your protector. And be the enemy of whoever is the enemy of Ali. And aid whoever aids Ali. And abandon whoever abandons Ali. This is the case that Rasulullah, absolute authority, shows this with the supplication that there's no doubt over the dominion that Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam has on the day of Ghadeer. And then he says, the first person he speaks to after this, remember he has his hand raised the whole time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen does not come down, and I'll get to the point when it comes down. Then he says, the first person he speaks to is who? The first person that's going to take what's not his. The first person he speaks to, he says, Qum ya Aba Bakr. He says, Abu Bakr, rise. Fabaya Ali. He calls him out to come. Do you think they came and gave allegiance to all that? And then when he gave allegiance, you know who's the second guy he called out? He said, Qum ya Umar, Fabaya Ali. Qum ya Uthman, Fabaya Ali. If you go with the narration, he goes through all of them. Qum ya Talha, Qum ya Zubair. He names every single one. Of also, it says he names everyone that has a role, including Imam Al-Kadhem alayhi salam is narrating this. It's narrated about him with this. He's the narrator of this. And then he says all the ones are called from the Ansar and the Muhajirin to give bay'ah. And what he says, فَبَايَعْ لَهُ بِإِمَارَةِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Come and give him homage. Come and give him allegiance for what? Imara, the leadership of the believers. And there's no doubt here, you're not here to say congratulations for being the friend of the Prophet. That was established before, long ago. In fact, Rasulullah, when he was with the Muhajirin, before he went to Medina, he made brotherhood between the Muhajirin. Who was the brother of Rasulullah? Ali ibn Abi Talib. All right. Now, when the Muhajirin got to Medina, each Muhajir had to make a brotherhood with who? With an Ansari, with someone in Medina. So every Muhajir had to be a brother of the Ansari. So who was Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen paired up with? Who out of the Ansar? No one. They were paired up with each other. The brotherhood was twice. It was clear who was the brother of Rasulullah. It was Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. So there was no doubt here that he went through this. And then Imam says, فَبَايَعُوا كُلُّهُمْ, that they all gave allegiance to Ali ibn Abi Talib and they all acknowledged this. And in fact, Omar got up from between the Jama'ah, Omar ibn al-Khattab. He said the known thing, Bakhin, Bakhin, or Bakh, Bakh. Bakhin, Bakhin, laka yabna Abi Talib. I wish that's where he stopped. Honestly, some people, they dig their grave even further. He says, Bakhin, Bakhin, laka yabna Abi Talib, asbahta, mawlai, wa mawla kulli mu'minin wa mu'mina. You are now my master. If he was your master, then how did you take the Khilafah? This is, I'll give you an idea, speaking about the seventh Imam. And I'm just going to show you the mentality of these people that take power. Did you know once Imam Al-Kadhem alayhi salam was with Harun Al-Abbasi? I wouldn't call him Al-Rashid because that'd be an insult to Rushd. So he was with him. And when he was with him, Harun said to his son Ma'mun, Abdullah, his son Abdullah, who later gave himself the title of Ma'mun. He said to Ma'mun, take this man home. And Ma'mun said, why are you sending me? Send one of the servants. I'm your son. He said, you take him home because your father sits under his mambar. See, Abdullah Ma'mun wasn't an imbecile. He wasn't like his brother Mohammed al-Amin. He turned around and he said to his father, if you sit under his mambar, then why are you the one in power and not him? If you need him, why are you the one in power? And then he says to him the famous saying, لو نزعتني في ملكي. You tried to challenge me for my throne or my position or my crown. He says, I would take the thing that carries your eyes. I will rip your head off, in other words. And then he says, Al-Hukmu Aqim. That rulership has no posterity. Do you know everyone that is a king, they will kill their son if the son's going to take their power. Has no posterity. That's it. So these people, they chase the dunya. You know, sometimes we might look at them, but we might head in the same direction. Nastajiru billah. Think about this. You know, you look at these people, all these people around at the time of the Prophet and the Imams. You might sit there and go, curse this person, curse that person. Yeah, taban, la'natullah ala a'da'Allah. Whoever's the enemy of God, we curse. But always be in fear that when Imam Sahib al-Amr rises, am I going to forego any position that I have? Or I say, hold on, no, I'm in charge of this position. I'm not letting it go. And then I'll wage war, nastajiru billah, against the master of my time. The thing is, the Prophet kept holding up the hand of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They said, you notice this. Have you ever watched a boxing match? When a fight's over, what does the ref do? When he raises the hand of the winner, he raises it in one direction, then he raises it in the second direction, in all four directions. So it's unanimous. That no one has a doubt who won the fight. Today, it's obvious, everything's technology. Back in the old days, back in the old days, they never used to, it wasn't like now you got your 12 round or longer, you had your 15 round. Back in the old days, boxing matches were how long? The rounds were unlimited. You just keep throwing down, then they have a break, then they throw down, then they have a break, then they throw down, then they have a break. And then at the very end, someone's hand gets raised. And everyone looks whose hands got raised, so he keeps moving around to make sure everyone knows who the winner is. Then there's tawatur. Rasulullah kept the hand of Amir al-Mu'mineen raised. The same hand that was raised every time in the battle. When Rasulullah called for someone to assist, it was the same hand. So he kept it raised. This hand that was raised all the time, he had to keep it raised. So Amir al-Mu'mineen's hand was raised right to the very end until the wahi came down. اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Imam al-Kadhem said that's when he put the hand down. After it was announced, now the religion is complete. And now Allah approves of Islam. It's complete. Now this is a package. Take it. Think about this. The Prophet honestly stopped 100,000 people plus, waited for 3 days for everyone the numbers to be there, just to tell you he likes someone that he's been telling you for the last 20 years that he likes. 23 years. You've just been hearing this all the time. You go, really? You stopped us all just to tell us we know this. And anyway, didn't you have this other verse come down upon you when you were asked you? إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. You've already told us to love them. Makes no sense. It's illogical to say it's for this love. Now, the problem is, if you look at it, this is the way all these hadith have been looked at. When it comes to a virtue upon any of the Ahl al-Bayt, it's looked like this. When you mention, for example, Fatima, salawatullahi alayha, as-siddiqa tahira, the honest and purified, whom Rasulullah says, Sayyidat Nisa'i Ahl al-Jannah. Forget the debates when someone says, if someone comes and dares to say that Maryam is greater than Fatima, Fatima is the lady of the women of paradise. There's no higher station than that. No higher station than that. But if she quarrels with a Sahabi, the Sahabi is the one saying the truth. Al-Hasan wal-Hussein, Sayyiday Shababi Ahl al-Jannah, the masters of the youth of paradise, are Hasan and Hussein. But if Imam Hussein takes a stance against the Khalif, what's wrong? He was looking for power. It all gets changed all of a sudden. The narrative changes when anything has to do with Ahl al-Bayt. But when it's about Aisha, for example, the one whom Bukhari says that from here will rise the horn of the devil, that Rasulullah said this. When it comes to her and her fighting against the Imam of the time, they said she rose an army or brought an army in Basra to stop a fitna. Automatically the narrative changes. So this is why you have the problem when it comes with this hadith. Now, how did this neglect of this event affect us as Muslims? It's the most prominent reason for the failure in Islam, like with regard for it to spread throughout the world. And because we disregarded, the people that have disregarded this great event. And in fact, if you like, find the West has adopted the opposition, even in their media. You know, for example, honestly, think about this. Right now, an event takes place, a rally takes place anywhere, and it has 100,000 people. Would it make the news? Of course. Ziyarat Al-Arba'in, which has over 20 million people. Do you hear about it on the news? It's nothing. It's not even an event. The Hajj has 1/10 of the people that go Ziyarat Al-Arba'in. But the Hajj is covered. But Ziyarat Al-Arba'in isn't. And there's a reason behind this. Anything linked to Ghadeer, anything linked to Ahl al-Bayt, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim ajma'in, is neglected. And this is why, even though this country and other countries like it call for freedom of education and expression, yet none of our books are deemed authentic. Nahj al-Balagha is not considered an authentic text. It's not accepted as an authentic text of hadith. It's considered a literary work. That's all. Nothing else. It doesn't have any of this value. And in fact, the non-Muslims are indebted to the ones that stopped the day of Ghadeer. Because the Islam would have spread throughout and prevailed throughout the world. And if it wasn't for the ones that were against the day of Ghadeer, Salman Rushdie wouldn't have had any research or sources to write these satanic verses. Where else would he find it except from those that oppose this? So, the Muslims of today really have three choices. One, they either believe in Rasulullah. It's either you believe in Rasulullah and you take the words of Rasulullah from A to Z in its entirety, or you don't believe, okay, in the final part of the message. That's your second option. And you take everything else, you reject that, and you remain in the state that we're in. Or, even worse, what happens today, people try and ignore it because they think, oh, it's going to bring sectarian tension. Relax. On the contrary, if you educate people, they need to be educated. This is the most important. Why do you think it's the most important day? Why do you think we need look at the hadith when it comes to the day of Ghadeer and its importance and the mention of this? Why is this hadith everywhere? And it's in their face, and it's enough for people to see every Muslim narrates this hadith. And today we suffer because of people rejected the day of Ghadeer. And no one is more humiliated in this world than the Muslims. Wallahi, we are the stepping stone of the world. Think about this. Our Prophet gets humiliated and it's normal. Everyone accepts it. Our Quran, today you have a look, the Quran's being burnt in front of Islamic centers and it's accepted. You want to know how big this is? Do you know how big this is? You look, let's imagine right now someone went outside the Israeli embassy and started like reading out Mein Kampf. How long would they last? Reading. You know, I'm just reading openly. I pick up Mein Kampf and I start reading. You know? To even mention this, what would happen to you? To sit there and write or do something like this. However, that if I was to burn the Quran, this is totally acceptable. In fact, the world's biggest, listen to this, the world's biggest open air prison in the world, the prisons are what? Muslims. Gaza is an open air prison. It's an actual prison. It's a prison. It's cut off from the rest of the world. And it's what? They're Muslims. Muslims are stepped on every day. Hijab is considered subjugation. All our countries are run by external forces. In fact, even the new, you know how there's AFIC now, there's a new one, ANIC. I'm not here to make friends, so, I'm not politically correct. ANIC just announced for Eid Al-Adha that they are following Kadhem al-Haramain, the custodian of the two shrines. Announcement for Eid. This same guy that Little Wayne was praising because he bought him a Lamborghini. Okay, this same guy that DJ Khaled turned up, I'm naming them so you know, turned up and did his Umrah and then performed the concert. I think he did the concert first, or the one, I don't know. But these people are coming, and women and men, non-Muslims, are entering Masjid al-Nabawi Sharif. Yet these organizations like ANIC are waiting for the announcement of these people. This is the Islam that you're following. This is the Islam they're following, the custodian of the two shrines. This is the Islam that they follow, and they just want to please the West. Well, you know, people sit there and go, hold on, why is there such good relations now between the Saudis and the Iranians? Why? Because they don't want the Iranians to, you know, still source the Houthis and that right now, because they want to become a Western country. They don't want any trouble, so they want to be friends with everybody. These same people that want to make it into a party state. You know, you go to the Hajj, fi wadin ghayri dhi zara. I used to remember the Kaaba. It says in a valley that has no foliage, no growth. What is it now? It's a mini Las Vegas. Go there. Have a look for yourself. This is Islam. This is what happens to Islam. And as I mentioned before, Macron being in, imagine Macron was in Haram al-Imam al-Kadhem. And no one said anything about it. Why? Because this is what we're trying to do. The Muslims have totally disregarded this leadership. And we go back to what? Sorry, I'm finishing up right now. I'm not going to hit you for another hour. I'm close to 50 minutes. I do apologize. It's close to the return of Iblis. Iblis was Aba wastakbar wa kana min al-kafirin. Iblis refused to accept Adam in his position. This is exactly the same. It's gone back to this. It's like for someone, you know, a lot of people, you know, I'll give you the idea. A lot of people watch, someone watches a gladiator and he says, you know what, I like Maximus. You know, I feel sorry for him. He's in what he was going to get. They took it off him and they killed his family, and I feel for him. But a lot of people will stand with Commodus. So I'm with Maximus, but they'll stand with the tyrant. And this is what happens. A lot of people look, they'll cry and they'll say Imam Hussein, and the next second they sit and they stand with the Yazids of society. And they'll put in this position. The day of Ghadeer,
that you can purchase, different sizes, different styles. I've done a lot of research. It's been a few months in the making, and so they're all custom designed. The apparel is high quality. I've tried it myself. I've tested it. My boys have tested it as well, and inshallah, it's something that I'm willing to sell to the community. So I have a little stall outside. You can have a look at some of the designs. We can have a chat, and appreciate your time tonight. And sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah.
Hassan, thank you, Haj Naki. Like he said, his store is outside, just in the car park. So if anyone would like to see some of his products or speak to him about his designs, we'll be there after the end of this program. We do have a few more parts to the program in the hall. We'll finish off with one more form of poetry, then we'll go on to the kuhu and ending with Lucky Door before we head outside for food and sweets, inshallah. Can we recite one loud salawat as we welcome Hajj Abu Ahmad to say some poetry. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أفضل الأعمال الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. MashaAllah, more than 100 people inside. The voice for salawat only 10. لا عذب الله لا عذب الله لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي وغذتنيه باللبن وكان لي أبا يهوى أبا حسن فصرت من ذا وذي أهوى أبا حسن. اللهم صل على محمد. If you're not allowed salawat to receive to Najaf, I stay just one part and enough. لحب علي بن أبي طالب أفضل الأعمال الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. I leave the speaker out because it's very allowed. I want to show you what is mean allowed salawat. وعجل فرجه. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سلطان منبر الأولياء پایه‌گذار منبر اسألوني ابن عم النبي مظهر العجائب زوج البتول الرد والقبول خير المؤمنين أول المتقين أعبد العابدين أزهد الزاهدين زين الموحدين أرباب العالمين راه رضي أهل يقين حبل الله المتين لنجر آسمان زمين مولى الموحدين أمير المؤمنين نعمة على العالمين نعمة الأبرار قسيم الجنة والنار ضريض كثير خير عظيم بابوي درد شهاب الثاقب نور العاقب مبيد الكتائب صاحب السوابق صاحب الفضل فارس المؤمنين قائد الغر المحجلين شجرة طوب الله الأمين في أرضه ناطق بدين الله سيف الله المسلول صاحب الدلالات، صاحب المعجزات، صاحب المغيرات القاهرات، إمام المخلصين، حجة الله على الأرض، الصديق الأكبر علي بن أبي طالب. لا عذب الله، لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت، لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي وغذتني باللبن، وكان لي أبا يهوى أبا حسن، فصرت من ذا وذي أهوى أبا حسن. صلوات. هذه الصلوات, this salawat is not enough, I tell you. It's my problem. When you go louder, I go louder. دم به دم بر همدن بر گل رخسار محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أحسن. أم الحنون، أم الحنون وكم في حملها تعبت، أم الحنون وكم في حملها تعبت، وكم ليال لها ما عينها هجعت، فصرت أدعو لها ما شمسنا طلعت. لا عذب الله أمي إنها شربت حب الوصي وغذتني باللبن، كانت لحب بني ياسين ترشدني، كانت لحب بني ياسين ترشدني، وعن محبة غير آل رسول الله تبعدني، وكان كاس الولاء من صدرها لبني، وكان لي والد يهوى أبا حسني، فصرت من ذا وذي أهوى أبا حسني. صلوات. علي أميري، علي أميري ونعم الأمير، وصي وصهر النبي البشير النذير. I want just get easy for you. علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي 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 مولى، علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي علي. ذكر علي عبادة. It's very easy. If you accept he is Mawla, allowed. علي علي مولى، علي علي مولى، علي 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 مولى، 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 علي علي مولى. حب علي فوز الشيعي غدا فامدد لي في يوم حسابي يدا. إن صلاتي ثم صيامي إذا لم يشفع لي حيدر راح السدى. يشهد ربي أن بروحي له حب دوما قلبي فيه كذا. علي علي مولى علي 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 مولى علي 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 مولى. صهر الهادي أنت مرادي علي. صهر الهادي أنت مرادي علي. علي علي مولى علي علي مولى علي علي مولى علي. علي أميري ونعم الأمير، هو الأمير ويبقى أمير. نادي عليا مظهر العجائب، نادي عليا مظهر العجائب، تجده عونا لك في النوائب. بإمامتك وولايتك يا علي